What's happening, guys? How's it going? So, yeah, again, sorry for the crappy video quality, the crappy audio. I'm gonna have to make do with it for now until I get a new computer, which will be pretty soon. And when I do, I'll get back to making better quality videos. So yeah, sorry for the lack of videos. I just need to get my shit sorted out so I can get back to uploading regularly again. So let's talk about this one. So, wanted to talk about Pacquiao versus Thurman, taking place at welterweight, coming up pretty soon. I believe it's next week actually, or later this week it might be, and that's for the WBA Welterweight Title. Now, this is a fight that I've got to be honest. When it was first signed, I was kind of surprised that this fight was signed. I was surprised that Keith Thurman would risk taking on Manny Pacquiao, and I know Manny Pacquiao is 40 years old, but still, even at 40 years old, the guy's dangerous. Even at 40 years old, he still has very good hand speed, he still has good stamina. I mean, he proved in his last couple of fights against Matisse, where he had the impressive knockout, and against Adrian Broner, where he had a very one-sided decision. He still proved that even at 40 years old, he's still a dangerous fighter. He can still punch, he can still box, you know, he can still fight at a fairly decent pace over 12 rounds. You know, still got an okay chin, still got stamina. And yeah, it's a risk for Keith Thurman, it really is. Now, how do I think the fight's going to go? Well, the reason why I didn't really intend on making a video about it is because I'm not 100% sure how it's going to go. It's one of them fights that, to me, there's a lot of uncertainty about it. You know, if you look at Keith Thurman, and Keith Thurman has had some ups and downs in his career. You know, he's had some fights where he's looked really impressive, and other fights where he hasn't looked so impressive. I mean, if you look at his last fight, and I watched that fight live, I'm pretty sure I reviewed it. It was his fight against Josecito Lopez, and Thurman was winning that fight. You know, he was moving around, he was throwing quick, straight punches from the outside, and he put Lopez down. He seemed to be in control, but then midway through the fight, the pace just started to drop. It seemed to drop a little bit, and then Josecito Lopez was able to catch him and stun him, and was able to win some rounds, and actually made the fight very close. And I felt that for the latter half of that fight, Keith Thurman was pretty much on the run. He was pretty much in survival mode, and even though he might still have been winning some of the rounds based on his punch output, because he was throwing a lot of punches on the back foot, I just thought that it was mostly arm punches. It was mostly him just throwing those punches as a nuisance, as a deterrent to try and survive and to try and stop the guy from coming forward. So yeah, I think that Thurman, to me, he's a guy who, if you can put him under pressure, he's a guy who can be mentally broken. And that's what makes me think that Manny Pacquiao, if Manny Pacquiao is anywhere near, you know, the level he was back at his prime, he should be able to break Keith Thurman down, and he should be able to, you know, force him on the back foot and be the aggressor and outwork him and win by a clear decision. The problem is, though, there's going to be a political element to this fight. Obviously, the fight's going to be in America. Keith Thurman is American. Keith Thurman is the champion. You know, it's his belt they're fighting for. You know, Keith Thurman has been with PBC a long time, and the fight's on PBC. Obviously, with guys like Al Heyman involved, you never know what those guys have got up their sleeves. So, Manny Pacquiao, I've got the feeling that he's going to have to really win this fight clearly. He's going to really need to dominate the way he did against Broner in order to win this fight. And do I see that happening? I'm not 100% sure, because Pacquiao, you know, even though he was able to beat guys like Broner and Matisse convincingly, neither of those guys, in my opinion, are quite as talented as Thurman. And Thurman is one of these guys who has very good legs. You know, he, like I said, he moves around the ring very well. You know, when he was on the run against Josecito Lopez, you know, you can clearly tell that Thurman has got some pretty good footwork. He's got some pretty fast feet, and he still throws a lot of punches. You know, he seems to have pretty good stamina too. And I just wonder whether Manny Pacquiao can win the fight convincingly enough to get a decision in America against somebody like Thurman. I'm not so sure he can, if I'm being honest. I think it's going to be a very tough one. I think it's going to be a tough fight to score. Can Keith Thurman stop Manny Pacquiao? Does Keith Thurman have the power? Well, Keith Thurman earlier in his career was known as a puncher. that's where he got the nickname one time. He was kind of known as a guy who would hang around on the outside and would jump in with power shots and would only need to catch you once to knock you out, kind of like a David Haye type reputation. But over the years he changed his style. I think when he started to up his competition, when he started to fight guys like Robert Guerrero and Danny Garcia and that level of fighter, he became more of a back foot boxer and more of a guy who goes to points. So can he stop Manny Pacquiao? I'm not 100% sure. Obviously, it's possible. I mean, Manny Pacquiao has been knocked out before. He's been knocked out multiple times. Okay, so and he was a much younger man in those days. Like when he fought Marquez, he was in his mid 30s. He's 40 years old now, so I could certainly see him if maybe he doesn't have the punch resistance he used to have. He could maybe get knocked out, but I don't think it's very likely. I wouldn't give a very good chance of Thurman winning by knockout. I don't really see him like doing a number on Pacquiao. I don't see this being a fight where Thurman goes out and just takes over and beats the crap out of him and stops him early. If that does happen, I'll be very impressed. But yeah, he could potentially land a lucky punch if Pacquiao were to work onto a right hand or a left hook. It could happen, but you never know. Can Pacquiao stop Thurman? I think for Pacquiao to get the stoppage against Thurman, he's going to have to work the body consistently in the early rounds because Keith Thurman has shown a vulnerability to the body, like the Collazo fight, which a lot of people bring up. And Pacquiao is also a southpaw. He could land like a left uppercut or a straight left to the body, and he could maybe take away Keith Thurman's legs and force a stoppage. But it's very unlikely because Manny Pacquiao nowadays doesn't tend to get the knockout. And I know he got the knockout against Matisse, but Matisse is a much more stationary target, a much easier guy to hit than somebody like Keith Thurman, who's going to be running all over the place, throwing arm punches. So, yeah, if he's throwing punches from the outside and he's moving around, I can't see Pacquiao getting the stoppage, if I'm being honest. But, again, if he does get the stoppage, it's going to need to be set up by his feet and his body work. He's going to have to get himself into position and work the body consistently and try and slow Keith Thurman down so he can stop Keith Thurman against the ropes or something like that. But again, I don't really see that happening. This is a 40-year-old Manny Pacquiao. If this was a prime Manny Pacquiao, say if this was Pacquiao when he was 28, 29, this fight would be a mismatch. It wouldn't even go 5 rounds in my opinion. I think he would stop Keith Thurman in the early rounds, but this is a way past his prime Pacquiao against a Thurman who's pretty much at his prime in my opinion. And I know some people will contest that because Thurman has had injuries and layoffs, but I still think that in terms of his age and in terms of just the freshness of his body and his mindset at the moment, I do think he's at his prime, and this is obviously his big night. This is his big opportunity, so he's going to be extra motivated and extra determined to get this win on his record. Whereas Pacquiao has beaten fighters like Keith Thurman time and time again in the past, so if anybody's going to have the motivation to really put on a career best performance here, it's Thurman, not Pacquiao. So that's how I see the fight. I'm going to go with Thurman on a close decision. It could even be controversial. I'm rooting for Pacquiao though, and I hope he can pull it off, but I just don't see it happening at this stage. We'll need to wait and see, but yeah, let me know what you guys think. I'm looking forward to it anyway, and yeah, thanks for watching. God bless.